Now, the man who runs British Gas, the country's largest energy provider, has hit back against political interference in his business. Government and opposition have blamed Centrica for rising gas and electricity bills, but the company's chief executive told Channel 4 News such pressure is undermining investor confidence and means vitally needed new power stations may not be built. Here's our economics editor, Faisal Islam.
Garrison Point at the mouth of the River Medway in Kent. The beast of the seas arrives after an 8,000-mile journey with a cargo of supercooled liquefied natural gas. The Mosa LNG tanker is named after the wife of the Emir of Qatar, the Gulf nation that will supply 1 in 8 UK households under a deal with UK energy giant Centrica.
It's a remarkable sight, a giant tanker of gas that's come all the way from Qatar with 250,000 cubic metres of liquefied gas that will be coming through these pipes in a few moments' time. We've become ever more dependent on these international sources of gas and we pay international prices. A few years ago, we'd be paying 15p a therm for North Sea gas. This is typically 4 or 5 times as much, sometimes 9 or 10 times as much. And what's truly remarkable is just how dependent we've become on the likes of Qatari gas.
The pressure is on, and particularly so for Centrica, owner of British Gas, which today announced a dip in profits to £2.7 billion last year, about a fifth of which came from 11 million UK customers. Chief Executive Sam Laidlaw, under political pressure over prices and competition, says his company needs to remain big.
We have to be at the size and scale we have. Last year we entered into £14 billion worth of new gas contracts with the Qataris, but also to export gas from the US. Now, these are only things that can be done if we are the size and scale that we are. That's what gives us the lowest gas pricing.
Most users of your services will be asking, when can they expect their bills to drop?
Well, I think the reality is that we actually just reduced our prices by £53. We continue to look the whole time to see whether the market will enable us to reduce our prices further if our costs come down.
At Centrica's HQ in Windsor, the market's in action. A bank of traders' computer screens checking the market price for gas and electricity, those crucial meteorological forecasts and capacity on pipelines and electricity connectors 24 hours a day.
This is where it all happens, on the trading floor. Over there, they're trading energy into the future up until 2016, trading more complicated stuff like carbon. Over here, they're trading every half hour to make sure that electricity supply meets electricity demand every day for gas. And they're factoring in things like the weather, the fact that it's half term, which means that demand for lighting at home is increased during the day. This is what a competitive market looks like, and the energy companies like Centrica, they say that delivers the lowest possible prices for consumers. But politicians increasingly disagree. The Energy Secretary, Ed Davey, seems to think that you might be too big and he wants the competition authorities to look at that. What have you said to him?
I think it's really important for the credibility of the UK as an investment, as a place to invest, that actually that inquiry is able to do its work independently of any political intervention.
And you feel that was a political intervention?
There is no doubt that any form of political uncertainty is the enemy of investment. And what we're seeing is investment. We need new power stations to be built in the UK. And clearly, if there is political uncertainty and a lack of consensus, which we've got at the moment, then actually these power stations aren't going to be built.
Back at the Isle of Grain, the Mosa, the world's biggest gas tanker, is moving through what must be the world's biggest three-point turn. Centrica itself faces some tricky manoeuvres after a slump in share price following Labour leader Ed Miliband's energy price freeze plan.
So when Ed Miliband floated a price freeze, I mean, you were a near £20 billion market cap company when that announcement was made, and now you're more like 16 billion. Does that show he's onto something? The markets obviously believe that he can enforce this type of price freeze policy.
Well, I think what it does show is it shows that investors are very nervous about that because they know that actually it's not sustainable as a policy. The old world of being able to control the gas price when we were self-sufficient in the UK is long gone. You either fundamentally, economic theory is quite simple on this, you either have price freezes or you have competition.
So why not break up Centrica's 40% market share into 2 blocks of 20%? That would promote competition.
Well, what you would end up having is you wouldn't have companies of the size and scale. You wouldn't be able to go and enter.
You're trying to have it both ways here, then, aren't you? You're saying that Centrica is perfectly sized to access international markets, but is not anti-competitive.
And there's nothing contradictory about that in the slightest. I mean, we need to be a large company with a good credit.
Ed Miliband's not come at this from nowhere. He was the Energy Secretary working with you for 3 years. Have you spoken to him directly about this policy?
Yes, I have, and you know, and I don't want to get into the specifics of the conversation, but I think it's clear that actually, you know, whilst I've made it very clear that whilst this may be popular, and I understand the concerns about energy bills, and I understand that actually it's attractive politics, it's flawed economics.
When he was Energy Secretary, did he say to you basically, we accept that energy bills have got to go up to pay for green stuff?
Yes, and he was very public on that point. When he was Energy Secretary, he said very publicly the direction of energy bills is upwards, and there's no escaping that fact.
Back on the Moser, they've docked up and are starting to connect the pipework for Qatar's gas to flow safely into Britain's pipes and homes. Centrica just one of the big six to warn that pre-election politics and long-term energy needs seem rather disconnected.